"Do you always feel like Tony has your back?" She said, "Yeah." I asked, "You always feel like you can count on him no matter what?" She replied, "Yes." I said, "That's how I felt about David." And she responded, "Well, yeah, you should." Then she said, "Oh, you didn't feel like that with Dad?" I told her, "I didn't know. I want every woman to feel this confident, this loved, this cared for, and this secure. Because I know how awful it feels to not have that, and it's terrible." Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Kody Brown Woolley, who now goes by Christine Woolley, is the wife of David Woolley. She is also a survivor of Kody Brown, of a polygamous cult, and of a life that, for over 50 years, kept her from realizing how much more she deserved. Now, she's in the process of unraveling it all, unpacking everything she went through, piecing together the moments, and beginning to ask, what did I do with my life? And what does this mean for my future? Like many women who leave polygamy, Christine is riding the roller coaster of stepping into a new way of life. She's making sense of the past, what she was told, what she believed was normal, and realizing how far removed it was from actual normalcy. Remember how the show used to portray polygamy and monogamy as though they were somehow equal? Christine is now realizing they are not the same, not even close. She's starting to see the differences clearly, especially when it comes to trust, support, and intimacy. With David, she's learning what it means to fully trust someone. She's experiencing what it feels like to lean on someone who offers unwavering, unconditional support. For the first time, she feels genuinely valued. With Kody, her entire adult life was marked by never feeling good enough. She never felt loved. She never felt seen, or valued, or beautiful, or safe. She spent all those years with a man and never once felt like he truly had her back. That is a devastating way to live. No woman should remain in a relationship where she doesn't feel safe, supported, or prioritized. Kody now tries to claim he was alienated from his children by their mothers, which is simply not true. He has openly admitted to having barely any relationship with his kids as they were growing up. And yet, for years, the narrative was pushed that Kody was an amazing, always present father. But what has rarely been talked about is the issue of intimacy. There was always this unspoken elephant in the room. Everyone knew he was sleeping with all of the women. How else would he have had children with them? But still, public displays of affection were forbidden. They wouldn't kiss, hold hands, or show any emotional connection when around their sister wives. What's strange is that they upheld this rule off camera, yet then turned around and went on television and showed private moments of affection between Kody and each wife. So while they claimed to follow this rule, they were publicly breaking it, on camera. Now, the women who once didn't see Kody with the others could suddenly watch it unfold on TV. That must have been jarring, to finally get a direct view into the marriages when Kody wasn't with them. It must have been a wake-up call. Of course, exposure to the outside world played a role in all this. But imagine living most of your life in isolation, in a system where your relationships are kept private, and you're never allowed to really know what's going on between your husband and the other wives. Christine's relationship with Kody was behind closed doors. The same goes for Janelle's and Mary's. None of the wives really knew what happened in the others' relationships. But once the show aired, they all got a front row seat. And once you see how Kody treats one wife compared to another, like with Robin, it becomes impossible not to compare. They always said, "Don't compare." But how could you not? If you see your husband gushing over another woman and treating her in a way he never treated you, it changes everything. It probably ignited jealousy, sure, but maybe more importantly, it sparked clarity. It made them start thinking about intimacy. It made them start realizing, I've never seen him kiss me like that, or he never looked at me that way. And that realization that the way he treats you isn't the way he treats her can be a painful, transformative truth. It's pretty obvious that when they started seeing the intimacy play out on the show, it must have had a huge impact. For the first time, Christine openly acknowledges that she can't believe she was in a relationship with a man and was okay with him being sexually involved with other women. She reflects on it, saying, "We used to have a lot of fun. We focused on the fun part, not the romantic aspect." Sometimes Kody would give them all flowers in front of each other and then just kiss them all. She remembers asking, were they all equal bouquets? Because sometimes he would call one of them babe and kiss them all in that same moment. It was awkward. Very awkward. She admits it's so strange to look back and realize she was married to a man who was intimate with and kissed other women, and that was just fine. Because it was part of the culture. That's what they did. And now, she says, I can't believe I was okay with that for so many years. They tried to normalize it to make it seem like it was just a different lifestyle choice. But in reality, the lack of intimacy in the relationships was clear. There was very little genuine connection. Nobody really knew each other deeply because everything was kept surface level. There were moments while watching the show when it was painfully obvious. They barely knew each other. And if they did a really good job pretending they didn't. They almost never had real, vulnerable conversations about what they were feeling or going through. Christine would often admit that she hated talking about her feelings or what was going on in the relationship. When she talks about how Kody gave out flowers on Valentine's Day, she recalls how he'd bring a bunch of bouquets, walk into the house, and hand them out to each wife, right in front of the others. He'd kiss each one and say, "Happy Valentine's Day." It was always awkward. She says now, "I can't believe I was okay with that." She repeats it, stunned by her own past acceptance. "I can't believe I was okay with being with a man who kissed other women and had intimate relationships with them, and I was just okay with it." That repetition is telling. And honestly, the further she gets from that life, she'll probably reach a point where she finally says, "I wasn't actually okay with it." Because even now, she follows that up with, "But I was okay with it because of the culture. It's what we were supposed to accept." But if that's really true, if she was okay with it, then seeing him kiss another woman in front of her wouldn't have hurt so much, right? She talks about how jealousy didn't hit her until Robin came along. That's when everything changed. She remembers when she first found out Kody kissed Robin, and she was shocked. "Wait, what? You're not even married yet. Why are you kissing her?" She was stunned. Kody's response? He reminded her that their own first kiss was in front of the altar, in front of the other wives, and that it was awkward. She agreed it was. Then he said, "We even talked about how next time I got married, you suggested we kiss beforehand." She remembers saying, "I know, but I didn't expect it to happen. And I didn't expect it to hurt this much." It seems like Christine was able to stay in that early, idealized honeymoon phase longer than some of the others, like Mary and Janelle. Mary's marriage was short before Janelle came in, and after Janelle joined, things changed quickly. There wasn't much time before reality started setting in. After that, Christine entered the picture, and I don't think Kody and Janelle's relationship ever really had a chance to fully form. Once Christine came in, Kody was able to shift much of his affection and time to her. Being the third wife and the newest addition, Christine essentially became the favorite, even though Mary was the first wife, the so-called head wife, and the one with the legal marriage. The fact that Kody didn't bring in another wife for so long after Christine, combined with Christine saying things felt fine until Robin showed up, suggests that Christine and Kody must have had a somewhat decent relationship. She wouldn't have stayed otherwise, and she wouldn't have said she wasn't jealous. It's hard to believe that there was no jealousy before Robin. The difference with Robin, though, is that she came into the family after Christine was done having children. That was the turning point for Christine. She knew she was being replaced. In their world, the women existed to bear children. That was their main purpose. And once they were done having kids, their value diminished. That's why Kody didn't invest time or effort into nurturing relationships with wives who were no longer giving him children. Their entire purpose, in his view, was to honor him and produce offspring for his kingdom. Whenever a new wife arrived who could still have children, she instantly became the focal point. Robin was a full decade younger than the others and ended up having at least 2 children with him. Honestly, it's surprising she didn't have more. Still, Christine's reaction wasn't just about jealousy. It was about being replaced. She could accept everything until it started happening to her. That same experience had already happened to Janelle. It had already happened to Mary, and they weren't okay with it either. I don't believe any of them were truly ever okay with it. If they were, they wouldn't have had to hide displays of affection. If Kody could freely kiss any of his wives in front of the others and no one had an issue with it, then maybe they would have been okay with it. But that wasn't the case. The affection had to be hidden because seeing him kiss someone else caused pain. That alone proves they weren't truly fine with the arrangement. It's your subconscious screaming, "This is not okay." Christine will eventually get to the place where she admits that more clearly. But right now, it's already powerful to hear her say, "I can't believe I was ever okay with that. I can't believe I was ever with someone who slept with other women." Go, Christine. Seriously, go, Christine. Meanwhile, Kody has been struggling in his relationships with his kids. He says things like, "I'm different. I'm not in the home. They don't know how to define me. They haven't had much connection. So I'm trying to build something new where I'm not represented to them by their moms." Christine says, "I don't talk badly about Kody to the kids. Ever. I really don't. I wish he would reach out more. I wish he had stronger relationships with them. I've done everything I can to help make those connections happen. I'm not a fan of the men who practice polygamy. I have to be honest. Especially not the arrogant ones who choose to be cruel. That said, I know there are men in this culture who follow it for faith. They truly believe in God, and they believe they're living righteously. Some men buy into the dogma because they genuinely think they must. In that sense, they can be victims too, though they still hold way more power than the women, and often become the perpetrators of serious abuse. And the lifestyle, the religion that surrounds it, it's abusive. That dogma is harmful. The expectations it places on both men and women are overwhelming. There are men who leave and eventually become more self-aware, more actualized, and more honest about their roles in everything. But Kody? Kody's a different story. He's coming out of this way of life with a mindset full of justifications. He refuses to take true responsibility. He lacks foresight. He lacks maturity. He lacks empathy. And he certainly lacks compassion for the people he's hurt. His unwillingness to face the consequences of his actions or to acknowledge the pain he caused speaks volumes. The way he runs from accountability is a huge red flag. To me, even though he's no longer in polygamy, it's clear he hasn't and won't change. There are men who've left this culture burdened with deep shame, filled with regret about how they treated the women and how their children were raised. They feel awful about everything. I can think of one man in particular, his daughter speaks to me, who has actually taken accountability and responsibility for the damage he caused. The guilt he carries is immense, truly immense. But he owns the fact that he wasn't a good husband and wasn't a good father. He doesn't see conversations with his children as confrontations or personal attacks. He's willing to sit with the truth of what he did. Kody, by contrast, lacks empathy. He lacks remorse. He can't get past his ego. Even when he admits to saying cruel, hateful, or mean things about the women or his children, he always has an excuse. In this episode, he says, "Well, I said all these things because of my ego. I said I didn't love them. I said I didn't care about them. I said I only did this for religion. I said it was all trash. I said terrible things about me. But then he tries to justify it. So he's not really sorry. Because if it were truly about his ego, he would acknowledge that and take steps to humble himself. He would actually change. In the same breath that he makes these so-called acknowledgments, he literally says that his identity was built on his wives and kids worshiping him. I got my identity from them saying I was awesome, and from telling my kids I was awesome, and from having my kids tell me I was awesome. And now they're gone, and they're saying I'm a piece of trash. I don't blame them. I was saying they were a piece of trash. I was telling you I didn't love them. But what Kody fails to realize is that he's missing the point entirely. He says, I don't blame them for calling me a piece of trash.
I was calling them that.
Yet he's not acknowledging the real reason they feel the way they do. He doesn't recognize the actual critiques, the specific behaviors, or the emotional harm he inflicted. He's not reflecting on what it was like for them to suffer just so he could feed his ego and feel worshipped. He literally said he was willing to exist in a dynamic where everyone else suffered, so long as he was worshipped. Everyone worshipped the ground he walked on.
He was okay with that.
He was okay with his kids having no relationship with him. He even admitted that he didn't have real relationships with his kids because he wasn't present in the homes. They just lived their lives while he floated in and out. And when he was there, the relationship had to go through the wives. He wasn't even a part-time dad. In these polygamous families, when the husband shows up, he gets the special cup, the special plate, the special food. Everything is centered around making it a special event. But it's not how the family normally functions. One day a week, that's not normal. And if everyone's just sitting around trying to praise him and be grateful that he even shows up, he doesn't have to do any work to become a better person. That's the problem. He's not acknowledging that all the pain he caused was at the expense of inflating his ego. And Kody would have been completely fine with things staying exactly as they were, because his ego was growing, and he was being worshipped. He only started lashing out when they stopped feeding that ego. So now he says things like, I said I did these things because I didn't love them, failing to recognize the truth, which is that he didn't leave any of the women. He abandoned them. All of them left him. And even now, he's trying to claim some kind of ownership over the narrative while refusing to take responsibility for his failures. Just like Janelle said, he won't acknowledge his failure. His failure was that he was not a good father. His failure was that he had more children than he could manage. His failure was that he had more relationships than he could manage. He was neglectful of his children, neglectful of his wives, neglectful of his responsibilities. He was abusive, controlling, demeaning, degrading, and awful. And he did all of that because of his ego. He did all of that because he was being worshipped and he felt entitled to treat people that way. Even now, as he comes out of it, he still feels entitled to claim, well, they just left me because of the things I did. I said I didn't love them. No, Kody. You did those things because your ego convinced you that you could do whatever you wanted and that there would never be consequences. That's the truth. The truth is, you did whatever you wanted. You hurt them. You abused them. You degraded them. You yelled at them. You called your kids horrific names. You called them jerks. You said you never wanted to speak to them again. Your child died, and you didn't show up. And now here you are on a television show saying, I forgive them.
No, 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 no.
They have nothing to be sorry for. You're still an egomaniac. So, he was an absolute liar and disgusting in this episode. And Christine? Christine is disgusted that she ever had to share him with other women. And I don't blame her. So, what are your thoughts about all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye guys.